Hello everybody, and welcome to the West Ham Wire YouTube channel. You already know who I am. This is of course the video on how West Ham can beat Chelsea, and it is going to be a tough test at Stamford Bridge. I know they've had two consecutive losses. I don't believe they've beaten anyone in the top 10 so far this season, but I just think with the attacking rare talent, West Ham are going to be massively switched on, hitting on the transition with pace, with the pace that we can get in the side, particularly with the likes of Jarrod Bowen, and be defensively organised. And obviously that will come to Declan Rice and his role within the side. But I'll get onto it. I'll start with Chelsea as ever. Let's start with this man because he's come under a little bit of stick this season. Obviously, the price tag associated with him, his former RB Leipzig, is of course Timo Werner. In terms of what I expect from him and what was interesting to see with him, I don't think Lampard's quite figured out how to use him effectively. For me, he's more of an actual nine making runs in behind. We know his strengths are in his dribbling and his pace and his mobility, and he's an absolute nightmare at times. But I think Lampard's kind of deployed him in that inverted winger role where he's making runs from deep. I think he massively benefits against teams that play a high press. Obviously, he can get the space in behind. You saw particularly with Southampton at home. I know it was 3-3 for Chelsea, but playing that mid-block, he could get in behind, cause issues, and obviously his finishing ability. That's been a bit wayward this season, to be fair to him, when he's had the chances. He was clinical then, and this is why, of course, you cannot give him too many opportunities. You look at Chelsea's side in general, pushing the likes of Mason Mount and Kai Havertz in the 8 role further forward. Olivier Giroud as well making runs. Even if somebody like Timo Werner isn't clinical, his ability to get in behind, particularly in the back four, could possibly create chances for Chelsea and really hurt us. It's going to be tough to deal with him. Again, like I've said with this Chelsea side, I think there is a genuine lack of mobility to get in behind, if I can say that. I know Giroud's got decent movement across that near post. And obviously Frank Lampard in the last game pushed Reece James and Ben Chilwell into that overlapping position to create a bit of width and try and break teams with the low block. But I think it's going to be tough for someone like Timo Werner, particularly if Declan Rice can protect Issa Diop and, of course, Vladimir Sufa on that right-hand side. And he's definitely going to need to because I think Chelsea have got so many options with the overlapping midfielders and the overloads in the box that they can create. So, again, we've got to be massively switched on for someone like Werner. Of course, that naturally brings me to the guy that's sort of tasked with stopping him is, of course, Declan Rice. For me, listen, we've seen his ability. I think his composure on the ball has improved this season. His distribution as well, his passing accuracy that we've seen, his ball retention is so crucial to us further up the field. I think what we've seen in previous games now, that relationship between him and Souček, as really the number 8 and Declan almost as a 6 and a pivot in that role. I don't expect either of them to play too advanced in this game. I expect West Ham to sit a bit deeper. Declan Rice, for me, has to offer protection to Issa Diop. I was really worried, as we all were, in the Crystal Palace game. We obviously know the Benteke goal, but in particular with his positioning, he was getting caught out by the likes of Zaha trying to make runs in behind. And I think in a back four, you cannot afford too many spaces between the lines. And like I've said, Timo Werner, Olivier Giroud, possibly even a Mason Mount or a Havertz making those runs. He's going to have to be protected, and obviously Declan Rice is there for that job. I think he's got an issue as well in the fact that Chelsea will look to try and pin back West Ham. I think they'll have a lot of the ball at times. It's going to have the likes of Havertz pushing up, Timo Werner, as I've said, Olivier Giroud in behind. His role is really going to have to be as a screen for Issa Diop and support him, but you cannot ever, particularly with the West Ham side and the emphasis we place on transition, overlook his offensive ability and his ability to get it into the front man. I believe we're going to play the 4-2-3-1. Of course, in which case that leaves someone like Manuel Lanzini that he can distribute the ball to. I think if we can see Declan Rice when he gets the ball and he can beat the Chelsea press, possibly advancing with the ball and bringing the ball into the likes of Lanzini, Sebastian Haller, Bowen or Ben Rama, I think that's where we can hurt Chelsea. And obviously I've covered in the preview. Obviously check that out if you haven't checked it out yet. But the fact that Chelsea's centre-back split, the fact that the fullbacks push up, we could need someone like Declan Rice or a Souček to make those kind of runs from deep, and I'd back them to do so. I think both of them are very, very good in terms of their box-to-box ability. But nonetheless, I think Declan's role in this game is to be defensive-minded and to sweep up and support Issa Diop when possibly he gets pulled out of position a little bit. And there's a lot of pressure on him, of course, to deal with that Chelsea threat. Let's talk about this man as well for Chelsea. Again, he's quietly impressed me. And he's impressed me, to be fair, throughout his career, is Olivier Giroud. And he always comes under a bit of flack. Not the quickest, I have to agree. But I think he's thriving in this Chelsea side. We can talk about that 4 goals he scored against Sevilla. But just the movement and that genuine number 9 mobility that I don't think Tammy Abraham, when I watch him play, quite has. I think earlier in the season, the role of the striker for Lampard was to try and introduce that midfield and push them and press them. again, in a low block, that doesn't work. It actually makes it easier and could have played into West Ham's hands. But the role of Giroud, making the runs near the near post, will obviously pull off towards the left side for him, the Issa Diop side. And we've seen how we got caught with that Benteke header. I worry about him. And I think just that little bit of movement in behind for Chelsea gives them an option, gives them a clear focal point to try and get the ball into and stretch West Ham. And it's going to be a task to keep him quiet. Like I've said, Declan Rice has to do as much of a job in trying to push back those inverted wingers. Equally, Issa Diop has to keep hold of his man. I think if you can keep Olivier Giroud in front of that back four, I don't believe he can hurt West Ham as much as we've seen him when he's in the box. Of course, naturally, there's that threat from the overlapping centre-backs in Chilwell. I know Reece James is injured, so it'll probably be Azpilicueta, and he doesn't offer the same type of pace in behind. But I think if Chelsea employ that tactic, certainly he's someone that's a threat in the air, can be a threat from set pieces alongside Zuma, and obviously with those kind of crosses as well in front of the near post, he can get a toe on it. Or he can just create that little bit of movement to create a chance for someone else. So he's someone that massively concerns me. And I think obviously it's a logical move from Lampard to put him in the team instead of Tammy Abraham. Now, how West Ham can hurt Chelsea, I've obviously mentioned the idea of transition and pace. And for me, this guy is the guy that has both. He has that directness as well about him. And that is, of course, Jarrod Bowen. And he has been quite a key feature of this kind of video over the past few weeks. But there's no surprise in that. I think his directness, his ability to beat the man, particularly on that right-hand side. For me, he also has a defensive duty in this game. Like I've said, when they push the fullbacks up, it would be nice to see Jarrod Bowen protect, obviously, Vladimir Soufal from a Chilwell, or even a Timo Werner if he tries to move out wide and create a little bit of width. Again, the issue is, like in the last game you see against Crystal Palace, Fornal's playing on that left-hand side, backed off someone like Ward who could get a cross in, and I think possibly we may not see Bowen in that defensive position. I think he can offer something. Again, if he wins the ball in that type of area, I would expect him to use his pace to try and attack Chelsea, get the ball out of West Ham's half and stop us being so under pressure, because we're going to need those moments to relieve a bit of pressure on that back four. They'll have to concentrate really for the full 90. But it isn't just that. I think if as I explained earlier, if the ball can get into someone like Manuel Lanzini in that 10 role, I've explained in the preview the splitting of the centre-backs. I look at Thiago Silva as a good addition to that Chelsea side as he's been in terms of his discipline, his aerial ability, obviously provides a little bit of support alongside Zuma. I look at the pace element of Jarrod Bowen, can take him on, either come inside and exploit the space between the two centre-backs, and go on the outside and exploit. I just think we need to target someone like Thiago Silva on transition, and I look at Jarrod Bowen as probably the obvious candidate for that. I could have put him side Benrahma for his directness. There may be a battle between him and Azpilicueta and that lack of pace that I think otherwise someone like a Reece James could have got the better of Benrahma. Again, it's so crucial West Ham hit Chelsea on the transition, but try and get numbers forward when we do so. And of course, it's a hard task against Chelsea. Like I've said, the pressure, particularly on our two pivots, is going to be horrendous at times, horrendous to watch. But I just look at someone like Bowen and think in terms of an attacking threat, if he can improve his decision-making process, and I know we've seen it over the past few weeks that's been a little bit lacking, I think we can hurt Chelsea and we can start to not only have a chance for Jarrod Bowen to score the goal, but to possibly create for a side Benrahma or a Sebastian Haller. But listen, it's going to be an interesting game. It always is against Fat Frank and Chelsea, and I just think if West Ham are switched on defensively, Declan Rice's role is so crucial as well, and we take our chances. And it sounds simple enough, but we really, really need to use the pace and try and exploit someone like a Thiago Silva on that right-hand side and try and get men forward. It's always the challenge. I just hope we don't drop too deep as we did against Crystal Palace, because I think it hurt us actually defensively. Again, I guess if the team's sitting a little bit deeper as a whole and we're not trying to press outwards, possibly we'll be okay. But there's going to be a massive emphasis on those attacking players to take their chances. So, with that being said, I'm going to end the video now. Make sure you drop a like on it. If you're brand new, subscribe, of course. Watch Long starts tomorrow at 7:30. All the build-up, lineups, score predictions as well. And of course, there'll be live match commentary from 8 o'clock. I'm looking forward to it. Post-match reactions and an opposition reaction as well the following day. So keep your eyes out for that. Transfer target video is also in the making with January coming upon us. So keep your eyes peeled, subscribe, keep tuned in, even turn on the notifications because there's a lot of stuff coming up. And until tomorrow, take care.